I'll just start off by introducing myself. My name is Greg Nielsen. I am the sales manager here at Carter GM. I'm not here tonight in any sort of sales capacity whatsoever. I just want to put that on the table. My purpose here, and we've got the Chevy Bolt. Obviously, it's a great example of an electric car. Again, there's lots of electric cars out there, and actually the information that I'm going to be providing to you tonight is relevant to any electric car typically. There might be the odd exception, we'll see. But for the most part, we're going to be talking about just living with, owning, and driving electric cars, and some of the intricacies and differences about using an electric car rather than a gas-powered car. And this is the first, hopefully, of many different sessions that we'll be doing. We're planning on doing it once a month in the evenings, it'll be the third Wednesday of every month. So the idea is that we kind of cover a different sort of a focused topic for each meeting. There'll be lots of information, even if you've been to one before, there'll be lots of new information. And then it's also, we're hoping that it's a great resource for our new customers that do buy a Bolt that want to learn a bit more. Because we tend to have lots of questions. As you can imagine, driving an electric car for the first time especially, there's all sorts of questions. And the biggest question that we have, and the reason I'm starting off tonight with charging, is because that's the biggest question. When you buy an electric car, now you're not going to the gas station anymore. What do? Where do I charge it? And it seems like there's maybe a simple answer to that question, but it can be a little complicated depending on your specific situation. And there's actually lots of different types of charging situations that work for different people. If you imagine someone that drives 50,000 kilometers a year is probably going to have to think a lot more about where they're going to be charging their car than someone who just drives on the weekends. So I'd like to cover all those bases. But for that reason, so tonight we're going to be focusing on charging. But any questions towards the end, I'll take some, we'll do Q&A. Anybody that has any questions about any topic on electric cars, I'm happy to help you out. So to start off about myself and why I am standing here in front of you, I'm very into electric cars. Obviously, I'm the sales manager here, but that, like I said, that's a totally separate thing. My whole career in the car business, I've been very, very interested in electric cars. Even before I was in the car business, I was interested in it, and I was wondering when I was a kid, hey, why are these tailpipes coming out of cars? What's that all about? Like, it's just, where does that go, right? Like, even just as a kid, I remember thinking about that. And then when I did get into the car business, I have always sort of focused on working for a company that is sort of going in this direction. In 2010, I worked for Nissan. I was a salesperson for Nissan, and just up the street here, I sold the very first Nissan Leaf in BC, and I was on board right away. Over the years, obviously, my career has brought me to different places, but one of the main reasons why I am here at this dealership, and have been here for the past 2 years, is GM and this dealership's commitment to electric cars. So, again, I'm not here to sell anything, but I do want to sort of explain why I'm here and what my purpose is. It's more to inform you and deliver information and hope that you guys can have enough information to make the switch to electric cars. So that's me. The Bolt, obviously, is a car that's been around for a few years now, with a very realistic real-world range of well over 300 kilometers. And so that's the reason why we're here tonight. Probably most of you have looked at a Bolt at some point.
Bought one yesterday.
You just bought one yesterday?
It's our first day driving.
That's amazing. So I'm so glad that you could join us tonight, because you'll have lots of questions I'm sure answered tonight. Can I just get a quick show of hands? How many people here right now are currently driving an electric car already? So, okay, great. So most of you. So that just sort of helps me figure out where I'm going to go with this. Because, and Wing, I know you mentioned you're driving a hybrid, so that's great, but probably wondering, hey, what's it going to take to go all electric? And I actually wondered that as well the first time I first drove a hybrid car. I still remember that too. When Toyota announced the Prius, when Honda came out with a hybrid car around the same time. And I remember thinking, driving in this Prius, hey, there's a battery in here that can obviously propel the car on electricity. That's awesome. how do you charge that battery? There's nowhere to plug it in. Like, you know, the car, so the gas engine is basically providing all that extra the electricity. And when you think about it, a hybrid car, the reason it's so efficient is because it uses that electric motor and that electric powertrain, even though it's getting all of its energy from gas. If you think about it, like that just shows you, it's a perfect example of why electric powertrains are a much better option, because that efficiency goes right through even on a hybrid car. So, you know, hybrid cars are great. I think it was a good first step, but we've got technology now when charging, not just the cars, but the charging infrastructure as well, where you've got a very realistic way to use an electric car to fulfill any sort of need. So with that, I'm going to get into charging. So basically, there are 3 different main types of charging, and we can break it down. We can get technical. I can tell you, and I will if you really want me to. I've got some. I started writing it out on my whiteboard. But really what I want to get into is what sort of a situation you might find yourself in where you're charging at one of those 3 levels. And there's different, I like to actually break charging down into more sort of real world examples, which I also wrote on that board. Like, where do you charge up your car? It's not, you know, you're not plugging it in at a gas station and waiting for 5 minutes for it to fill up. That's, you know, that whole thing is gone now as soon as you switch to electric. So you're charging at home, you're charging at your office maybe when you go to work. In those 2 instances, your car can be parked for hours and hours at a time. So the fact that it's only getting maybe 7 or 8 or 20 kilometers of range for every hour that it's plugged in, not such a big deal. But when you're on the road, if you're on a road trip, or if you just want a quick plug in when you're, you know, stopping at the mall or you know, going out to see a movie, maybe you wanted to go out a little bit faster. And that's a situation I would call opportunity charging. And opportunity charging used to be a bit more of a thing when cars didn't have as much range. So, for example, the first Zen Leaf that I sold, I remember probably got, like, realistically maybe 120 kilometers of range on a full charge. And so with that limited range, you're always looking for places to plug in, right? And so opportunity charging is a big thing. Now, that's not to say if you have a car that will go further, if you have a Bolt or a Tesla or a Kona or something with a longer range, you know, you might decide that you want to, if you are at the mall and there's a spot to plug it in, why not, right? Get a few extra kilometers of range, probably get a better parking spot. I know, like IKEA has them, the malls have them. You can find a good parking spot usually where you plug in. So that would be called opportunity charging. But when you go through the 3 basic levels, that's the more sort of technical end of it. It's pretty straightforward for level 1 charging. That's just your normal household outlet. So I've got one plugged in over here. I'm just going to walk over to this side of the room. So this is a typical level 1 plug. And this will come with the car. So you guys, everybody that's got one already knows this. But this comes with pretty well any electric car that's sold. You get a level 1 charger. This plugs into any household outlet, as you can see. It's got that 3-prong plug that everyone's pretty familiar with, and you literally just plug it in and plug this into your car, and you're done. It's about the simplest thing you can do. We do have clients, and probably some of you in this room, who just rely completely on the 110-volt charger. Now, this is obviously the least expensive way to do it. It's super convenient, especially if you have a plug that's near your car. But it's the slowest way to do it, of course, too. So level 1 charging is really only an option, I would say, at your house, at your home, wherever you park your car for long, long periods of time. Because the amount of charge that you get is, well, I wrote it down there. It varies based on the car and efficiencies and things like that, but you're getting anywhere from 5 to 7 kilometers of range for every hour that the car is plugged in. Okay, So if you think about it, if your car's parked overnight for 10 hours, you could expect to get 50 to 70 kilometers of range. If you drive less than that amount per day, then you're fine, right? You never have to worry about going anything more than a level 1. Even some people that do drive more than 50 or 70 kilometers, if you drive 100 kilometers a day and then plug in at night on one of these, as long as you've got a bigger battery pack with a bit of a buffer, you could probably last all week, and you still, by the end of the week, you would still have some charge left where you don't really have to worry about plugging it into a level 2 charger. So you can, it's realistic actually for a lot of people just to completely rely on this. Now, I don't totally recommend that, just because when you do step up to a level 2 charger, the level of speed and just like everything about stepping up to a level 2 charger makes life so much easier. Because if you do take your car out for an extended period, if you want to drive it for a while, if you're coming home from a road trip and you want to go to work the next day and your car is almost out of juice, the level 1 charger is going to have a little bit of it'll be a little tricky in those types of instances. So level 2 is where that's kind of the sweet spot for electric car charging. And realistically, if you have the ability to install a level 2 charging station in your home, I would highly recommend you go for it, especially considering there's rebates right now that basically allow you to get the charging station for free. Installation, that can vary. It depends on your own specific situation. And I wanted, actually, you know what, now's a good time to just stop for a little bit and ask if anybody has any questions. I don't want to like carry on and on and on. Maybe if someone's got a sort of a lingering question that they're thinking of.
I contacted Zappa today, and I went on their site.
Okay.
And I was told that you had to use a specific electrician. But when I went on their site, it sounded like you could just, you go to London Drugs, you buy the charger, and then it's $999. They reimburse you. You can have anybody.
Yeah, they do. So if you read carefully in their fine print on their website, they make you buy that charger. You have to, that's the only option as far as the charger is concerned. You have to go to London Drugs and buy it for $1,000. Then they'll reimburse you that money. Now Zappa, and they recommend a certain charging company. They have a recommendation.
I can see that. But to me, like you said, you buy it, you get it installed, and you send them the.
They have a recommended installer, but it's not. You're not tied to that installer. You can figure out your own.
I had an electrician come by who's done them, not for Zap, but he's done them for.
Yep.
And he's going to do mine for $425.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, that price you must have a pretty simple installation.
It is. It's very simple.
Basically, what if you're really lucky, you've got a garage where you can plug in your car and there's a panel, electrical panel, and then you can install the charger right next to it, and there's lots of room for extra circuits and stuff like that on your panel. So that's the best situation to be in.
He just needs a permit and needs to be inspected.
Yeah. Yeah.
After it's
After it's installed,
yeah.
the inspector has to come and sign off.
As far as the rebate from Zappa goes, though, you don't need to rely on a specific electrician. You need your receipt from Zappa. Yeah, and they've got lots of details on their website. Now that one, just remember that's funded by Strata, so they only have 1,000 rebates. Once they're used up, then there won't be any left.
Oh, I just read in the budget that they're putting a bunch of money towards, so whether they're going to enhance it or I don't know.
So the rebates that they're going to be funding in the budget mostly go through BC Hydro. There's some really good BC Hydro rebates. Scrap It isn't affiliated with the government. They're not funded by yeah. So that's then there's other rebates.
So there are other programs.
Yep, there's a BC Hydro program as well. Yeah.
That helps you with the cost.
Exactly. Yeah, but typically they just cover the cost of the actual unit, the actual charger, and then you have to cover your own costs for installation. Any other quick questions? Yeah.
I read that it's okay to, plug and unplug, but just, I'm always concerned, once you plug it in, I like to let it get a full charge, and it's cool to, I have to run out, unplug it, I have a 220 plug, so plug it back in, nothing.
Yeah, no, they're very, very robust. They, it's pretty foolproof. You can unplug it, plug it in as much as you like. There's always going to be a bit of a delay. So the charger, in case this is another little bit of information not everybody knows, the charger is actually built into the car. This is a bad example. This is not a charger. This is just a supply for the electricity for the charger. So the charger is built into the car, and as soon as you plug it in, it wakes itself up and says, okay, there's some electricity here, and it goes through a test, and you'll notice it doesn't start charging right away. Right? It usually takes like 10 seconds. So that's just the charger waking itself up and deciding how much amperage it's getting and figuring out what it's going to do as far as charging up the battery. But yeah, then as soon as you unplug it, it just does the reverse and shuts itself off. So yeah, no worries there. You can plug it in and unplug it as much as you like. And as far as the state of charge of the battery, when you do that, I'm going to get into state of charging in a bit too, and we'll cover that. But like, there's really no disadvantage to unplugging it when it's not fully charged. You don't feel like you have to wait until it's 100% charged.
Okay.
No. So yeah, so level 2 charging. So this is a bit of an old school charger. This would have been like when GM first started selling Volts, the plug-in hybrid Volt back in 2010. They would have installed this here, but it's the same sort of idea. It's called the plug end is called a J1772. This is a universal plug. Any electric car can use this except for Tesla, and Tesla would have to have an adapter for it. But this is pretty common. You see these on public charging stations. You obviously see it on your level 1 charger as well. And pretty well any electric car is going to have a receptacle that this can plug into. And that's what a 220 volt charging station looks like. We have a newer one on the back wall. That's the current charger that we sell right now. First here. That was manufactured by AeroVironment. It's a higher power charger, so it's got a higher amperage. And so that kind of allows me to get into the second part of charging, where it's not like with level 1, 2, and 3, it's not like I can charge at X speed, 2X speed, 3X speed. It's not like a fixed thing. A lot of it's going to depend on, well, it's pretty well entirely going to depend on how much amperage you have. And again, I don't want to get super specific about it, but what it boils down to is the more amps and the more voltage, the more power you're going to get into your car. And generally speaking, a level 1 charger could go up to about 12 amps, and that would be on a 15 amp circuit, which equates to, if you do the math, it equates to about 5 to 7 kilometers per hour. If anyone's really interested in the math, I can go through that later maybe, because it actually provides you with a nice bit of information as far as what you're realistically consuming for power. Oops, I just wiped that off. And thinking about that relative to the size of your battery pack, because the battery pack in your electric car obviously dictates the range to a certain extent, and that's always measured in kilowatt hours. Okay.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
What's the cost? Let's say you're using level 1 and
Yep.
you're charging for 10 hours.
Yeah.
What's that actually costing?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So the cost to charge your car obviously depends on how much electricity you're bringing into the car. So whether it's level 1 or level 2 or level 3, it's best to measure, and the way BC Hydro measures it is in kilowatt hours, right? Which is also happens to be the exact same unit of measurement they use to measure the capacity of your battery. So it's super handy. In BC right now, at your home, you're paying, if you're on, there's 2 stages of charges that they charge you depending on your consumption. So BC Hydro, if you are in a home where you're not consuming too much electricity, up to a certain point, they only charge you about maybe 9.5 cents per kilowatt hour. And so if you're on that stage, and if you do the math, real simple math, like 100 kilowatt hour battery pack, would cost you $10 to charge it up, right? a bolt will be like $6, right? Now, there is one caveat to that, and a level 1 charger, obviously you can measure the amount of electricity you're pulling from the wall, but it's never quite as efficient as a level 2 charger. This is the other thing. So you will actually end up paying, it's not like a massive amount, it's not like double, but you will actually pay a bit more to charge up your car if you're charging it at home on a level 1 versus a level 2. And that's just because of efficiency. Yeah, over time it'll add up, yeah. Yeah, because, and that's just based on efficiencies from the voltage. So, and then no two chargers are exactly alike. So this one here, like I said, this is an older one. It's actually operating at a much lower amperage than the new one there. So that's why there's always this range. So on a level 2 charger, you could get like between probably like 50, 60, 70 kilometers of range for every hour that it's plugged in of charge, depending on the type of charger you use. Yeah.
Is there going to be anything harder on your battery, charging it faster or slower? Or?
Yeah, that's a great question too, because this is also something that comes up often. Is if I am plugging into a real fast charger, like one of these level 3s, like this guy here, does that damage my battery? The short answer is not really, not that much, and that's just based on the like 10 years ago they would probably say, oh yeah, you probably shouldn't do that, but now there's been so much data about electric cars being charged and being driven on a daily basis. A fast charger, as long as your battery has a proper system to control its temperature while it's being charged, which most electric cars do, and I'm not going to bash the Leaf, but that's the one car that doesn't have it. Pretty well every other electric car, except for the e-Golf also doesn't have a temperature thermal system. But that's the big thing. On the faster you charge it, the more heat is generated in the battery, and batteries don't like heat. They really hate heat. So if it's like once in a while, it's every couple of months, even on a Leaf, it's not that bad. On any car that has thermal management, it really doesn't make